Cool. Hi, my name's Alyssa Pfiefer. I am a senior graduating from Wichita State University from the filmmaking program in 12 days from today. And I'm a cinematographer, editor, just overall filmmaker, a little bit of everything.
Perfect. So talk to me about young Alyssa.
Oh, gosh.
When did you decide that film was what you were going to, or has it always been kind of in the cards?
So, no, definitely not. Filmmaking was something that was very big for my little sister.
Interesting.
So she was the one, we had a camcorder, it's all early 2000s families typically did. And she would run around the house. Like literally all of the content that exists of me when I'm little is like my sister running into my room and shoving a camera in my face and being like,
do you remember,
this is my older sister.
Do you remember what camera it was?
No, gosh, I have no idea.
Okay.
It was definitely one from Costco because
Nice.
my family's a Costco family.
Okay.
So it was a Costco camcorder. But she had it and she would run around. And I was very big into STEM. Like I was a science, math nerd. Like I did all of that sort of things. So once we got into middle school, I took a film class mostly just out of curiosity and also because the other electives sounded boring. I was like, I don't want to learn how to cook. I don't want to learn how to sew. Cameras are cool. I'll do that. And I ended up doing that. Really loved it, but still like science and math was where I always wanted to go. And my big interest was always space. My dad is a huge space nerd. As soon as I was old enough to watch Star Wars, we were watching Star Wars.
Sure.
As soon as I was old enough to like comprehend Gravity, we were watching Gravity. So like all of these movies. And it wasn't really until high school when I was still kind of taking film classes because I was like, oh, these are a cool like way to balance the stresses of like, because I was in the IB program. So like these super rigorous courses that were just like draining me. And I really started to love it, but I never considered it to be a career. My senior year of high school, I made a music video like in a few months, kind of like the end of my junior year, beginning of my senior year. And I made this music video. It was a class I was in called editorial leadership. And it was basically like you have an extra hour in the film room to like be the TA, but it was really just like an extra hour to just like mess around with the cameras and do fun things and whatever. And so I told my teacher that for like my midterm or whatever, like I wanted to do a music video. So she gave me 3 songs, and the one that I chose was Bury a Friend by Billie Eilish.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, this is so different than what I usually listen to. It's so fun. I was very big into Billie Eilish at that point in my life. Made a music video to that. And my sophomore year, actually, if we rewind a little bit, my sophomore year, there was the opportunity to travel to New York for a film competition. And it was a brand new one, so we weren't going to compete. We were just going to scout it out. And I heard New York, and I was like,
I'm in.
like not even from a film perspective, just from like a traveling perspective. I was like, oh my gosh. So I did all the fundraising, all of the things, went to New York. That was like my Christmas birthday present for like 2 years because it's a trip to New York.
Yeah.
Loved it. Thought the atmosphere was super cool. That's what kept me going in film. So anyways, flash forward, I worked on this project. I had a lot of fun. I did it with some of my friends. I had this vision of covering someone in these kind of like black like lines all over their body. And so I grabbed my best friends the day before our junior prom and covered them in black Sharpie.
Oh no.
And we were like, this is going to be fine. There's ways to get Sharpie off of skin. And like there are, but in all of our prom photos, you just see like faded black. And it was so funny. And we still laugh about it to this day.
Though.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
The other person that was like their counterpart in the music video, I wanted the same thing but red. And so we used washable paint, and that was a much better choice. Anyways, I finished the project, loved it, kind of like, it was done, it was whatever, moved on. I was in AP physics. That was more of my concern at that point, because at that point I decided that I wanted to study astrophysics. Love space, love physics, loved calculus.
Yeah.
Like calculus was my favorite math class that I had ever taken. So I was like fully set that this was the path I was going to go down. And in like September of my senior year of high school, my teacher randomly texted me one night and was like, hey, you know how we're going back to New York this year? And I said, yeah. I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going yet or not, but like, obviously I would like to. And she was like, well, I didn't tell you this because I didn't want you to get bummed if you didn't get in, but I submitted your music video as an experimental piece and it's in the festival. And
nice.
It's showing at the AMC Theater on Times Square. And I was like, Like I I saved pictures of myself like sobbing because I was like, I'm gonna want these to look back on, and I have them, but it's me like weeping in my bed. And it was like my sister had like 10 friends over at that time, and I remember like running downstairs, and I was like, I made something and it's showing at a theater
And
on
I need to
Times
tell
Square,
someone
and
right
what
now.
is going on? So yeah, it was like surreal. We went to New York, a group of about like 12 of us, and my piece was showing, and another kid who was a year younger than me, he had made a short like documentary piece that also got in.
Nice.
So we were both official selection. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got to see our pieces like in a movie theater in like the AMC in Times Square is like 13 stories. Like
Yeah,
it's
it's
ridiculous.
kinda
It
crazy.
is so insane. And that was like, I came out of that screening and there were people being like, oh my God, it's your piece. And my friend who I covered in the Black Sharpie was also in the filmmaking program at that point. So they were like, oh my gosh, and you were the one in the music video. And it was just,
So
it
they
was-
got some reward for having Sharpie prom.
they had me just about shatter every bone in their hands when we were watching it live in the movie theater.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I still have like a recording that one of my friends took just of my piece playing in the movie theater, and it's like I have the better quality version just like of the piece.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it's playing in a
Yeah.
theater. And that really flipped something in me because it was like I started to see on a professional level, like they had a career fair obviously there, like they had industry professionals, they were talking about like where you go from here in college, and that was the first time that it really started to click in my brain that like, hey, maybe this is something that I can do and that is worth pursuing. And once I got back to school, like I started putting so much time and effort into that because it really did start to bring me joy. And at the same time, physics was causing me a lot of undue stress. And I was
Sure.
like, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. And I toured like the first 6 of my colleges as an astrophysics major. I toured Wichita State for their astrophysics program. Like I
Interesting.
fully know all of the programs and whatever. But yeah, I talked to my parents and they
How
were
did
like,
they take that?
they took it really well. I'm
Okay.
very lucky that my parents
Yeah.
were very, very on board with it and very much talking and like, okay, like let's be real. You are giving up a stable career. You are giving up a strong income
Yeah.
right out of college. Like you're giving up all of these things. But they knew how passionate I was. They knew how bad my mental health had gotten largely because of school, because I am a very like academic validation person. And when I started to pursue film and I wasn't getting that like I had in math, like it was just a weird mental switch.
Yeah.
But they knew that they wanted to let me try. The one thing that they would not let me do, and in hindsight, completely respect them for this, but senior year of high school, Alyssa was like, oh my God, was Columbia College in Chicago. That was like where everyone in my school was talking about going and whatever.
Yeah.
And like the girl who was essentially my like high school rival, like we were
Sure.
always kind of like doing whatever. She went to Columbia College Chicago, but her family also has
Yeah.
money. And like I got good scholarships, but it just didn't make sense. And I tried to convince my parents for eons. And my mom was like, it's not necessarily the finance. It's the fact that like, if you decide to switch, Wichita's going to have more of that ability. Like you can't switch out of the arts at a place like Columbia.
Yeah.
So I did not want to tour Wichita at all. I did not even know that such a place existed. I was
Sure.
like, that is middle of nowhere, Kansas.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to middle of nowhere, Kansas. I want to go to California.
Yeah.
But we toured here and my parents asked me in the car ride home, they're like, how did you like it? And I tried so hard to cover up the fact that I loved it. I was like, yeah, it was fine. My mom was
Whatever.
like, no. Yeah, and I came back for DSI, competed, met my freshman year roommate, and that's when I was like, okay, this is where I'm coming. And literally coming to Shocker Studios and talking to Justin was like a huge push into
Yeah.
coming here as well. Like Justin very much was a part of why I'm here, just because I was like, this is a good program, and it's still a little bit close to home, but I still have
Yeah.
that distance. And yeah, now I'm here. And now my little sister is in a STEM career. So we like completely switched career paths. But
How
yeah,
fun.
that was like growing up, we were expecting completely the opposite. So it's funny.
Now, the high school you went to
Mm-hmm.
had like a pretty significant film or at least media program.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that we did. We not only had one in our school, but there was also like a district-wide sort of like secondary, like it was like Summit Technology Academy. So it had all these different programs, and it was like the most random. Like it had like aerospace engineering, nursing, digital media, and like 2 other things. Like it was so random, but their digital media program was great. So I like took 4 classes at my high school, and then I spent half of the day at this like off-campus program. That was just my senior year.
Okay.
But so like my senior year was largely film centric, and it was amazing. But yeah, I had a great high school program. My teacher was Miss Smithia, and she is very much the reason why I continued pursuing film, was because of her support. But yeah, no, it was great. We had so many opportunities. I mean, besides New York, we traveled to Springfield every year and did a 76-hour challenge.
Nice.
Much like the Tallgrass one here. And yeah, did all sorts of things. I got to go to Seattle one year and compete out there. That was more broadcast based, but it was still fun to do broadcasting things. So yeah, it was fantastic. We had a lot of cool opportunities.
Very cool. So you're at Wichita State.
Yeah.
You're in the film program.
Yeah.
Still a fairly new program. I think at the point
I thought you were going to say that I was still fairly new to the program. And I was like,
No, I think we had graduated maybe 1 full class when you got here.
Something like that. Yeah, I was here fall of 2020.
Yeah. So I always forget when we officially started, but I think we started in 16. It might have been 17.
Yeah.
But so still fairly new.
Yeah.
So like there's definitely advantages and disadvantages to that.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But talk me through kind of project wise, what did filmmaker Alyssa look like in college? The main thing we are getting to is Prism.
Sure.
But what led to Prism?
Oh, gosh. See, it's so weird because I'm like cleaning off my computer right now. So
Yeah.
I'm like finding all of my old stuff from like prior semesters. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I mean, the first year, I would say to maybe like 2 years, was a lot of just like the class projects and the doing whatever. And like, I remember, I think my freshman or sophomore year, we made a film called The Music Man. And like the whole, I don't remember if you were my professor for this or not.
I don't think so.
I don't
this
think
doesn't
you were
sound
either.
familiar.
So it was myself, Dakota, and Emerson.
Okay.
And I saw a TikTok. No, not a TikTok. It was a Vine. It was the Vine of the guy that like whenever he talks, it's like a guitar plug-in, and then he like plays a guitar and it's him like
talking.
singing.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so funny. Let's make that into a film. And so it was like, we got Dakota to play this. No. Oh my God, I don't know. My brain's all over the place right now. But essentially someone that would like be super clumsy and falling all over the place. And it would just be this like sad orchestral score anytime he like let out like a sigh or a moan or whatever. But it was so random. So just things like that. I think largely those first 2 years were about kind of finding my footing and figuring out like how things worked here, because it was very different than high school. Like high school was a much smaller group. You know, there were different, you call lights can lights, and you get here and there's no such thing as a can light here. So it was very much like a weird, learning phase, along with like not only in the program here, but just like living away from home for the first time. Nonetheless, like when a pandemic had started 4 months prior, like that was incredibly difficult. So just trying to make those connections when everyone's social distancing, everyone's masked, still trying to be involved, but not trying to like burn myself out of college too fast. It was hard to find that flow. And I think junior year, that's when I kind of started to hit my stride. And I don't remember exactly what had happened like project wise then, but I think that was the first year that I put myself out there for like the big kids prac 3s and whatever. So I started doing group stuff. I started doing PA stuff, and like building those connections really helped me a lot. And it helped me to gain confidence knowing that like, they were helping me in the whole thing. And that became definitely a focus of mine as I became the upperclassman once they graduated. But yeah, I started like doing projects that had meaning to me. I started like finding my little crew of people who I work very well with and who I enjoy working with and who make being on set for 10 to 12 hours a day like fun and enjoyable and not like fully wanting to
At least
collapse and die
possible,
at the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I'm so bad with remembering specific projects, and that's really sad because I looked at them like 2 hours ago.
No,
But
you're
no,
fine.
and it was the dance program stuff that was really big for me. Finding my confidence was working with you on stuff like that, and like
Yeah, that's right. You came in to shoot reshoots, I think.
something like that. Yeah,
It was either reshoots or additional photography of some sort
Yeah.
for a. How long was the runtime of that one? Do you remember?
which one?
Shayla's. So she moved the prairie. Shout out, she moved the prairie. The prairie.
I think it was like 15 minutes,
Okay.
maybe.
So you came in, Caitlin Cody had shot the majority of that.
Yeah.
But there were either reshoots or additional photography that they needed. And you came in and did that and crushed it.
Yeah, and that was I think maybe one of the turning points for me was because like it was very much out of my comfort zone and it was very like here you go, do something.
Figure it out.
And like that's what I needed was just to be thrown in the deep end like that. Like that is where I really see myself start to like be able to swim and be able to rise and be able to do things, cuz like even though I have confidence I would have been able to do those things prior, I don't think I had the confidence yet in my like
Sure.
place here at the studios. So yeah, I think the dance films were really big for me, and those were incredibly long days but very fun. And I just remember getting back from any of those shoots and like just like I felt very happy, and I would call my mom and I would just talk and be like, I just got to
I'm doing the thing, Mom.
because
I'm doing the thing.
I was a dancer growing up, and a
Right.
lot of the films that I did in high school revolved around dancers because I've always really liked like being able to capture like movement. I think that's really really fun. So a lot of like the music videos or experimental projects that I do revolve around dance, and so I was very excited to do that. And then my roommate sophomore year was a dancer, so I got to do more stuff with just like recording showcases. So yeah, that was probably one of the biggest contributors to my growth here.
Yeah. And then I think the next project of yours that comes to mind for me would have been your directing project
Yes.
from Directing Film, which
Yes.
also involved dance.
It was a dance project.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that one, like I said, my sophomore year roommate, she was a dancer. And so I had easy access to a pool of actors. And she, I think, ended up deciding to pursue a minor in musical theater. And I think that was just at the start of her wanting to pursue that. So I was like, hey,
This is perfect.
let's help each other out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we can kind of see how this goes. And yeah, that project was very fun and very challenging because I think that was the first time I had shot something dance related that like had a script.
Right.
It wasn't just like, oh, let's get
Go
cool things and we
and
can
get
cut it
pretty
together
bodies.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was very different. And that was the first thing I really think I tackled that had like like emotional through line.
Yeah.
Like one of them that I was very much drawing from my heart.
It definitely had some Aronofsky like vibes to it.
Thank
which
you.
Of
That is
course
such a compliment.
is a big influence on you.
Yeah.
But taking that to Prism,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess is technically only halfway done at this point.
Yes.
I don't know that if we just showed those to people, if they would visually see a through line.
Yeah, and I think that's fair.
And I think that that's really cool,
Yeah.
honestly, because I think directing was the beginning of your junior year.
Something like that, yeah.
And like obviously you have stood out in this program since getting here. You've been doing, really good quality work, but what I love about Prism is it really feels like a shift to Alyssa, not Alyssa parroting something else or
Yeah.
trying to achieve something else. It's just Alyssa being Alyssa.
Yeah. I appreciate that because I felt the same way. Like I felt confident in not just mimicry, but in genuinely like taking that inspiration, not only from like past things that other people have done, but past things that I've done. And yeah, like I think this was the project, fittingly with it being my last project that I really like found my voice.
So talk to me about the project.
What do you want to know?
When because you've been thinking about this project, I think maybe even in directing, you talked about it.
So
I know you wrote scripts you've been working on this for a long time. So talk me through it.
Original threads of this started in winter of my freshman year.
Okay.
So I had always wanted, because like I dealt with stuff with finding my sexuality, really like in kind of the darker times of my senior year of high school, which bled into, because of COVID, my freshman year of college. And there was one night in like December that I had this idea. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a story about an aromantic character.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have never seen an aromantic character in media.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of media. I obviously don't watch everything, but I was like, I've never seen something like mainstream. And I started writing that night, and I think I wrote for like 6 hours straight, because I have like a Snapchat memory of me in like my freshman year dorm taking like a mirror selfie, being like, this is what college is all about. I'm up all night writing. Yeah. This is crazy. And like I worked on that script for a while, and then I pitched it to 2 people in the program that I'm no longer close with. But the 3 of us started kind of working through this, because at that point we were all kind of in the phases of figuring out sexuality, figuring out what it meant to be into college and to grow up and whatever. And so we all kind of devised this 6-chapter idea. And the original idea for the chapters was completely, because like after we kind of stopped communicating, I gave the project a rest for a while. I was like, I don't really know if I want to come back to that. But it was always kind of in the back of my mind that it was like, this means something to me. Like this has been something that I've wanted to make. This is a very important part of who I am. This is an important part about like media that I want to see. Like I'm always seeking out these stories in media, and like I find them, but like to what degree? Like you kind of have to search, and even then it's like it's a lot of the sameness. There's nothing wrong with that. Like we need more coming out stories. We need more whatever, but I wanted something new, and I wanted something fresh. So yeah, in writing, when I started rewriting, and I don't remember which chapter I started writing, but I started writing one of them just because I was like, let's see if this goes anywhere. And that just like opened the floodgates again. And I just went crazy. And like the only thing that really stuck from the original was the 6 chapters idea and how they each correlated to the pride flag, because I thought that was very fun. I thought I liked the idea.
It's a good construct to build upon.
Yeah, I thought it was, and there was so much that I wanted to get in, and I wanted to talk about neurodivergency, because my little sister is queer but also autistic, and she's never seen that represented. And I wanted to show something about drag queens, because that was at a point in time where that was like huge in the media, was all the drama about drag queens. And I was like, I want to make something about that. And relationships with religion and sexuality was very important to me. And then a big thing, because when I realized like, okay, I'm going to pursue this story again, I made a Google form, because I love my Google forms, and I pushed it out on social media to like everyone, and I got like 50 some responses. Like people were very interested in this, and that was cool to me. But it was like, what are tropes that you're tired of seeing? What are things that you want to see? Like, would you watch a show if this was the premise, sort of a thing? And like the number one response of what people wanted to see was queer joy, like happiness. Yeah. Like just tell a story, let the character be gay, and let's move on. And I was like, yeah, it is important to have someone's sexuality be at the forefront of their story on occasion, but that's not how it always needs has to be. Yeah. So that was big for me. That forum opened my eyes about a lot of stuff, and it was very cool. And I had a lot of people reaching out being like, please do something like this. Like this needs, like, please do this. And so, yeah, I started writing, and obviously I came up with 4, 5, and 6 first. I have a very good idea of what I'm going to do for 1, 2, and 3, but I still don't have those scripts finalized, because I was thinking at one point I'd be able to get all 6 done for my practicum. And
do you think that the fact that Star Wars meant so much to you as a child with your dad, that has influenced the fact that you started with 4, 5, and 6? I never thought about that specifically, but the anthology stuff I think Kent has brought up before when he's like, that's interesting. No, it's funny that you mentioned Star Wars, because I meant to come back to that. But the fact that like I always watched Star Wars growing up, being like, oh, this is why
I love space and I love this story because it deals with space. And it took me until like my senior year where I was like, okay, I like the story because of the filmmaking behind it. And that was a very interesting like kind of dichotomy or whatever.
My family was really into war films.
Yeah.
And pretty much the only thing on in my house was either a Cary Grant film or a war film.
Sure.
And my brothers watched those and thought, oh, wow, it would be great to go to war. And they pursued that. And I watched those and said, wow, it would be really fun to make those. And maybe let's not shoot people.
Yeah.
Two different approaches.
It's very interesting. But no, I never thought about the 4, 5, 6 before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'll start telling people that.
There
just
you go.
like a fun little
just take
callback.
that.
That'll be my little awards acceptance speech. And people will be like, oh, it's so profound. But
so you've shot 4 of the chapters now. 3 of the chapters. Sorry, we started with 4.
Yes.
Yeah. We've shot 3 of the chapters. You worked with 2 different DPs.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was honestly very easy.
Okay.
The 3 of us worked together in tandem on a lot of different projects, and I think we all have a very similar eye for things most of the times. And all 3 of us, like both of them, were on set during it would just be like sometimes, one of them's the AC and one of them's the DP, vice versa. One of them's grip, one of them's whatever.
Were you concerned that there wouldn't be a cohesive visual style throughout the chapters, or did you want that?
So I wasn't really worried about it, largely because of the fact that it was separate chapters, and I wanted it all to look similar enough, but if they had their own unique feel, I thought that was okay. And I knew that we would get a similar enough look because, like I said, the 3 of us have very similar eyes, very similar techniques and shooting styles. But yeah, I was obviously communicating with both of them what I wanted out of the shoots, but since the 3 of us got to collaborate on every set, I think that was really key in still making the unit cohesive, but making each individual piece have its own tone and vibe and stuff. Yeah.
So what takeaway from this semester from Prism itself? What do you think the biggest Alyssa as a filmmaker growth moment has been?
I think that I just naturally, as a person, I take on a lot at a time. And I think weirdly, finding those moments to say no and to focus on making sure that I am good was a big moment of personal growth for me. Because I always want to say yes, I always want to help out on things, but when I have a project this big going on at the same time, and I'm trying to finish my degree, and I'm trying to figure out what careers look like next month, and I'm trying to figure out what's happening with the holidays and what's going on. It was so much, and being able to kind of learn how to put my priorities was big. And I think that's coming into jobs as well. I think having a good handle on that is good, and knowing the payoff of different jobs and different travel and whatever. I think that's big. Otherwise, I would say the dance stuff, I think that was probably my greatest moment of confidence growth in the program, and probably technical growth as well, because I think that was the first time I worked with a cinema camera.
Yeah.
I remember with my little Snapchat memories, but I took one when we were driving to Shayla's place or something of the camera in the lap, and I was texting my mom, and I was this is what I'm filming with today, and I'm so freaked out. I've never used this camera before. So yeah, I would say that those are 2 very big moments. And the saying no to things and prioritizing health happened a lot later than I think it probably should have. Yeah. But it happens. I feel much better for it.
I think that's true of everyone.
I think we're all kind of in a similar
it takes
boat.
getting hit in the face by life to be maybe we should reevaluate.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
So, knowing you as I do, I know that you have really cared about mentorship while you're here. You've made it a priority for yourself to make sure that you're pouring into underclassmen, whether that's like your close friends like Emery or just, the random freshmen that walk around. So thinking back to, you as a freshman compared to you now, what advice would you have for either yourself or current freshmen?
I mean, everyone says it, but it's like you have to get involved. You have to talk to people. You have to go to professors' office hours. You have to like talk to the big kids. You have to get involved in practicum projects. Like I knew that going in, but I think it's so much harder when you're here with your parents on a college visit. It's easy enough to say that you're going to do those things. And then when you're surrounded by like people being buds with the professors and like all these crazy projects going on and things, like it's very hard.
It's intimidating.
It is. It's very intimidating. I look at underclassmen right now like Diana, and she was a PA on the last chapter of my practicum shoot, and she said that was like the first like bigger set that she had been on, and I was like, this is who freshmen should strive to be, and that is who like I needed to like look after, because it's like it really just is about like talking to people.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a lesson that you have to learn early on here, because it's the lesson that we're taking out into the industry is like you have to talk to people and you have to know people and you have to meet people.
Like it's cliche, but it you have to hustle. You have to hustle.
You do. And it's like it sucks. Like I wish that I could give incoming me or incoming freshmen like advice, and it's like
a straight roadmap of you do this and then but like
learn how to wrap a cable and your life is going to be fine. But it's like that's not it.
No, you have to get involved.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So I definitely prioritize that, just like especially with like working in the equipment room. Like when these underclassmen come, I'm like, oh, what are you working on? Like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm recording a podcast. Oh, well then let's not use a Zoom. Let's use this, and here's why, and whatever. So it's like that's very important to me. I had a lot of support my freshman year, but I feel like a lot of it came after a little bit of time. And I think like having those people to reach out to you is really big. So that's why I always strive to do it. But yeah, I like you just have to talk to people and you have to like touch things.
I think all 6 of you who are graduating this semester, maybe with the exception of David, but even David to a large extent, you see, if we're looking at a graph of like your growth, like all of you start actually doing projects and then it skyrockets. Yeah. But the problem is we started, end of sophomore, beginning of junior or whatever. Yeah. So I cannot stress it enough. If you are an underclassman watching these, just get involved with projects. Just start saying yes.
Yeah. Well, and like I feel like some people that I've talked to are like, oh, I don't want to be a PA. I don't want to be a grip. I don't want I want to get my hand. I want to do the big thing. And it's like, no, because I feel very confident in my abilities as a DP, but I know that once I graduate, I'm not getting a job as a DP. I'm getting a job as a PA. Like it's the circle of life. So it's like, even if you are a grip and your job is to set up the crafty table and move a C-stand every like 20 minutes or whatever, it's like, you're spending lunch breaks with people. You are learning people's names. You are like, your face is being seen by the professors. Like that's big. So yeah, it's like, it's a weird dichotomy where some people like only want to do the big things and some people like are so terrified to use another camera that's not the T5. And I like, they come into the equipment room. I'm like, look, it's been a semester. Do you want to use a T5i? And they're like, no. I'm like, what? Like you can, like I promise you can use the T5i. It's not scary. Yeah. Yeah. So it's very important. But I'm excited. I think a lot of the freshmen like that I have seen, and I know I've just seen it more because I'm working in the equipment room. Sure. But I think there's a really good group that's starting. And I think like as the program grows and as like the opportunities grow and you get more like people in this, but like I don't know, I see people like Diana and I'm like, we're on the right track.
I completely agree. Yeah. I think exciting things are happening
I
here.
agree. Yep.
So Prism, you're gonna shoot the other chapters and then festivals. Are you putting it out online?
Probably festivals. That's obviously the goal. I know that like with this ending up probably anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour, it's probably going to be tougher to get a festival slot, which sucks. But I think it's worth trying.
For sure.
The documentary that I finished this last summer, I submitted it off to like 6 or 7 festivals. And it's like...
Yeah, we didn't even talk about your work with sports.
I forgot about it. Yeah, it's very interesting. Like, I don't know, festivals... It's weird, especially when you have to pay, and then it's like if you don't get in, it just sucks. It just sucks.
It's important to remember with festivals, though, that it's kind of like when you go to the grocery store. Like, you have your things that you're looking for. It doesn't mean that you think every other item at the grocery store is gross or not worth purchasing. Sure. It's just like, I need one thing of milk, not everything of milk. So.
And that's I just I don't know how to rewire my brain to not be
it's so tough.
Like crave academic validation.
So tough.
I'm like looking at my calendar, seeing 12 days left of my time in school, and I'm like flipping out because I'm like, no, like you can tell me I'm good, but until I see that A in the grade book, like that's when I know. Yeah. So it's like it's very odd. But yeah, I definitely want to submit it to festivals. Definitely want it to release it somewhere without having like a wall up for people to watch it. I don't necessarily want to have people have to pay, have to subscribe to something, have to whatever, because like the point of this is that these stories are
want it
told.
To be a gift to your audience.
Like I do. And it's very much not only a gift to my audience, but a gift to myself.
Yeah.
And like I want people to watch it, and I know that like a lot of my extended family is going to have problems with it, and if
you're not making people uncomfortable, you're probably not trying hard enough.
I agree. I 100% agree. So yeah, it's definitely going to have more of a public release. That's the goal once I finish it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So where can people find you on social medias?
People can find me. So, because all my usernames are like slightly different. So I'm on Instagram at Alyssa.Pfiefer, just first name, last name.
Perfect.
Twitter, I refuse to call it X because if Elon Musk doesn't respect preferred names, then neither do I. You can find me on Twitter at Alyssa_Pfiefer. I'm on there a lot. I literally think my YouTube is just my name as well. Pretty much everything is just my name.
Alyssa Pfiefer.
Alyssa Pfiefer. That's my name. My last name is weird, but I'm assuming it'll be
on
I'm gonna
a lower
go like this.
third or
It's gonna
something.
be here.
I'm gonna purposefully put it up there.
No, I'll go like this.
It's on the side now. All right. Well, this has been a delight. I could keep talking to you forever, but we've both got a lot of things to do this week. So
I agree.
We'll call it here. This podcast has been a production of Wichita State University School of Digital Arts. It has been produced by Ashlyn Farney, and it has been edited by Ashlyn Farney.